This is me February 6th, and this is me exactly 3 months later. In this video, I'm gonna share exactly what I did to get there, plus extra tips that made it as simple and easy and enjoyable as possible so you can drop the unwanted body fat, get lean, get toned, get sculpted, feel confident AF. Let's go. My name is Madeline. I help thousands of women all around the world get insane transformations from home eating a ton of food. Here we go. All right, step one, the absolute first thing I did February 1st was I used my own calculator. You can use any calculator. And I found out what was my calorie deficit. Before anything else, I wanted to find out this number so then I could then begin tracking my nutrition. Now, my calculator or any calculator that you use is going to give you a calorie target as well as likely macro targets, proteins, carbs, and fat targets. For losing fat in terms of absolute priorities, our bottom here is calories. With regards to weight loss, we need to make sure we're in a calorie deficit. So the base of the pyramid is calories. That number is going to dictate whether we are gaining weight or losing weight. Number two priority, boom, is your protein intake. So when I did the calculator, first thing I did, and I saw all the numbers it gave me, I focused number one on the calories, that's what I need to hit, and number two is that protein target. That's what I wanna hit. Now, why is protein so important to hit? Protein is the key macronutrient for keeping metabolism high. Why? Because it's absolutely essential for us to build and maintain our muscle. Muscle helps your body use food more efficiently and improves how your body stores and burns energy, AKA a strong, fast metabolism. So every day my goal was to hit my calorie and protein targets. Above protein, we have our carbs and fats. Now, depending on your food preferences, your activity level, your carbs and fats are going to vary. That's why whenever you get a calculator and it's gonna give you those numbers, you don't need to exactly dial those in every day. For example, one morning you might have something with oats that's gonna be a higher carb and protein breakfast. You might have something with eggs the next morning where there's almost no carbs. So these things will fluctuate. You don't need to make sure that you're hitting these on the nail every single day. You should be getting enough of either of them if you were just eating a diet that is whole food-based. The only time I worry about not getting enough of one of these is when we lean too much into, diet foods or low-calorie foods and we almost eliminate fats completely, only egg whites, spray butter, whatever. We're barely using real foods and then not getting enough fats. Eat a whole foods diet and these carbs and fats are just gonna vary. So that was two numbers that I didn't hyper focus on. First, boom, hit my calorie target, and then I made sure that my protein was hitting there as well. Now let's just be clear, psychologically at the beginning of the 3 months, I was kind of thinking, damn, I'm going into a calorie deficit. Like I'm gonna track my food, I'm gonna go into this thing and I'm nervous, apprehensive, and like kind of like a little bit dreading because it's just this thing that for it requires discipline. And I just want to mention right here, by day 3, your girl was flying. Okay, it's always so much scarier before you're doing it. And then you do it, you realize you're not hungry, you learn how to eat like really awesome meals and you also start to see results pretty quick. There's an initial first drop that happens right away, at least for me, as soon as I do start tracking and taking, paying more attention to my diet. And so that's pretty motivating, that happens right away. But the first few days are always, the most difficult, getting back into the swing of things, but then you are smooth sailing. Don't procrastinate, get straight into it. Now, what in God's name did I eat? Spoiler alert, I ate like a freaking gangster the whole time, and I cannot wait to drop these tips on you. Because as a girl with a pretty high appetite, I really enjoy making and eating large amounts of food. This is a very important part to me. I gotta make sure that the food satisfies, I'm eating big things, my eyes gotta see a big plate. And so take notes if you're somebody like that. Now, since calories and protein were my top priorities in my nutrition, what should I include at every single meal that has the lowest amount of calories and highest amount of protein? Lean protein. Now, the ones I heavily relied on, just because they're accessible to me and I love them, ground beef. This was extra lean ground beef. Little tip, ask your butcher for leaner, okay? My current butcher has 90-10 in the glass available to me. And so I said, hey, can you do leaner than 90-10? That's still 10% fat. You can get that stripped down a lot leaner. And they said, of course, just call ahead. And so you don't know if you don't ask. So I've been making massive orders of ground beef, just calling ahead. And so at least it was 95.5, and then I can take off whatever in the pan. There you go, I've just saved tons of calories and it was no difference to them. We've got chicken breast, egg whites, which I added to eggs, low or no fat dairy. This was my low fat cottage cheese and my 0% Greek yogurt, always stacked in the fridge. And lastly was my whey protein isolate I always have as a backup in my cupboard. I am never unorganized with my lean protein. There will never be a time in my kitchen where I don't at least probably have all of these, to be real with you. I buy my meat in bulk. It's just always there in the freezer. I pull it out the morning of. Always got tons of egg whites from Costco, my low-fat dairy. It's just stocked up. When those become a priority for you, you always just have those top of mind. They're in your fridge and freezer, and that is going to help you with your fat loss phase, just being organized, having those. You can build your meal with these at any point in time, and that is the priority macronutrient that you need to reach your fat loss goals. Get organized with your lean protein. So then I'd fill in the rest of my calories with carbs and fats, depending on how much activity I had that day, if I wanted more carbs or if I was leaning into more fats. Let's talk about carbs for a second. The carbs that I relied on the most, they are pretty much all unprocessed, unrefined carbs from nature. Those make me feel fuller for longer. I get to eat more of them because they're lower in calories than, say, bread or tortillas. So I'll talk about my main sources that really help me out. Now, number one, if you follow me on Instagram, you're gonna know this already. And this is just gonna be my biggest fat loss tip really ever, is just eat pumpkin. Learn to like pumpkin, okay? I have become a pumpkin connoisseur. At the moment, kabocha, if that's how you pronounce it, that is my go-to in Canada. I loved the Japanese Kent pumpkin in Australia. Spaghetti squash, I've gone so hard in spaghetti squash. If you're somebody who needs that volume, needs to eat big foods, big meals, just throw pumpkin in your cupboard. Just let it just sit there and always slice. I'm eating half a pumpkin per night, okay? Now, fiber, we love it. Nutrients, fantastic. It's low calories, lots of volume, and it's delicious. Like, I freaking love pumpkin. The base of most of my meals was a bunch of greens and an absolute buttload, okay, of some sort of pumpkin. So this was my favorite carbohydrate at night without fail. Next up, every day I had tons of berries. Again, low sugar, low carb, low calorie, high fiber, high nutrients. I've always got the massive bag of the organic berries in my freezer. Next up was organic rolled oats, especially on high training days, say with boxing or end of my cycle when I'm wanting more carbohydrates. That is what I go for. And lastly, most eaten was potatoes. So any kind of potato, white, I love sweet potato. Now on occasion, I did have some sourdough, I had some tuna sandwiches. I'm sure there was probably rice once or twice, but I really lean into these because these keep me more satisfied and I get to eat more food for the calories they contain. If you're wondering why I didn't eat another food source like rice more often, it's simply because the calories to portion ratio to me isn't my favorite, and so I like leaning into these. But if you like eating rice much more than eating oats, that might be your thing that you kind of fit in. Okay, lastly is fats, and I think that this is where a lot of women can go wrong because we know fats are very calorically dense and we want to lower calories while we're losing fat. So this is an easy one to take away, but for our hormones, for our health, it's a bad idea. And so it's a bit of a balancing act. The bottom line is fats are essential for our health. As soon as you go too low with these, you're gonna run into some issues, okay? We need fats. Now, where I got fats for the majority of the time throughout this cut was eggs. So the whole egg yolk. So that's why I would get my eggs with my fats and pair it with egg whites for a huge high protein scramble. Avocado, Parmesan or Pecorino cheese, those are like my favorite. I'm Italian, plus they're unpasteurized cheeses, which I love. Olive oil. Now, little hack here for you. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen some of my sauces. They're in my app as well. The better you get at kind of learning about food and building meals that you really love that support your goals, you kind of come up with little hacks for yourself. So for example, I could take Parmesan and cut a brick of it and have one square. Or I could grate it. I could mix it into some Greek yogurt into a blender, add lemon, add herbs, and now I've got my little brick of Parmesan that was gonna be, 100 calories, and I've turned it into a massive sauce that I can drizzle, all over my dinner. So that's what I was doing every night. I made massive sauces. I even put avocado one night, made an avocado sauce, but how can I make my food go further? That's kind of what you want to think about when you're building your meals for fat loss. How could I turn this meal and make it as big as possible so that, and if you're somebody like that who wants to eat big meals like me. This to me really changed the game. Like I was eating like a quarterback, huge meals, unbelievably delicious, by incorporating sauces and being creative with my fats, my proteins, just things. How can I make a low calorie sauce that also adds my fats, that spreads it much further and just makes it more delicious? Like, I like my shit saucy. If you want complete guidance on all the food stuff, I'll leave a link in the description from my app. I can give you a meal plan, everything you need, workout plan, so you can lose fat with me, gain access to my community. It's a really good time. The results are incredible. Just other little things that helped me in regards to nutrition throughout this deficit. Number one, seems silly, but eat when hungry. I don't care what fitness guru online, tells me that I gotta wake up and as soon as I see the crack of frickin', the sun, I gotta be shoving breakfast down my throat. I don't do that. And that seems to help me. I eat when I'm hungry so that I can use my calories accordingly. I'm not gonna eat when I am not hungry. Simple. Next is 3 meals with a dessert. So instead of, 6 kind of small meals throughout the day or incorporating lots of snacks, I find to me that I'm just eating a bunch of little things that don't really satisfy me the best that, 3 proper meals can. Basically allocating more of my calories into a single meal instead of spreading them thin. Plus, I think there's a benefit of eating and then not eating, letting your body digest and have rest from food, eating again. So 3 meals, that's what I would have. A breakfast, kind of a smaller lunch, then a nice big dinner, that's when I'm really hungry. And then I always included dessert. Now, quick tip around dessert. If you are going into a fat loss phase and you have a sweet tooth, don't run from the sweet tooth. Stop running from it. Find your low calorie treat that you really like. You might have to try a few. Go on Instagram, TikTok, there's 5 billion of them. But find one that at the end of the night just makes your life better. You look forward to it after dinner. You've got that thing. It's only whatever, 250 calories, whatever. And you get that hit. Okay, for me it was, I've posted it before, my cottage cheese mousse, live and die that cottage cheese mousse, whether I'm losing fat or whether I'm freaking gaining fat, that's what I would be eating. I'm so freaking obsessed right now. I go through phases where I get absolutely obsessed with something and that's mine right now. But make room and find that thing because it seems small, but it's very significant in keeping you on track. You get that hit, you're not gonna go and reach for something that's gonna blow out your calories or take you further away from your goals. And lastly, but probably the most important out of all of these was that I was always prepared, okay? If you fail to plan, you can plan to fail. For example, buying in bulk, having things already in the freezer for the week, just thinking ahead. And so you're not scrambling, 5 p.m. You're like, oh my God, I gotta run to the shops. I don't have this, I don't have that. Don't ever put yourself in that position. Little hack, I go to my butcher and I ask them for all of my ground beef, just because I ate a lot of ground beef this deficit, but whatever meat you're having, I actually asked them to put it in my serving size. So for example, it was, can I have 20 servings of 200 grams of this ground beef? And they would do it for me. They didn't even bat an eye. So every morning, all I got to do is take out my ground beef, I chuck it on the counter and it's defrosted, done. Okay, so that's a major hack for me. Buying in bulk, thinking the day before, what do I need tomorrow? What do I need for the week? And just be prepared so that anytime you're hungry, everything is in your fridge or cupboard for you to reach your goals. And I think that that's like a major key attribute for success is just being prepared, thinking ahead, and just ultimately taking responsibility for your nutrition. Don't leave it up, to the last minute. Okay, and very last thing I want to talk about when it comes to nutrition, because when you go into a fat loss phase, I think we often put this pressure on ourselves. I was not perfect, and you don't have to be either. Throughout this, I had a fair few family events. There was Easter. There were just occasions where I had dinners that were over my calories. I had desserts, I would have some wine, you name it, it happened because that's life. Now, none of these events were ever sprung on me last minute. I knew they were coming, so there would be things that I would do to just mitigate that and plan ahead. For example, going on a date night. I want to have some dessert. I want to have a glass of wine. I might have a lighter breakfast. Same breakfast, but like cut down the portion size. Same thing at lunch. Prioritize my steps that day, okay? Lower my food intake throughout the day and not fasting, just lower it, smaller portion. Go on a big walk, more output. So that when I come to dinner, there are a few extra 100 calories that I'll be eating that would fit into my day. Now, would I still be going over? Yeah, likely, like I'm eating, where we're going in. But the magic is keeping it at that meal. And I'm telling you right now, this happened multiple times throughout my deficit. And not once did I wake up the next day, everything was the same. Everything was the same. That's because I kept it at one meal. Old Maddie, if you've been following me for a bit, was binge eating. I would have turned it into an absolute catastrophe. Okay, let's hit McDonald's on the way home. Let's go bada bing, bada boom. But it was one meal, sharing the dessert. It's no big deal. And so I'm telling you right now, if this will happen to you throughout your deficit, it's what you do everywhere else that is going to count. Not that tiny 1% where you have, you're sharing an appy that's fried calamari and it's not a big deal, okay? But just end it there. End it at that table. It's done. Moving on. Business as usual the next day. I know as women, it sometimes, can be hard. Our mind will play games with us and blow it out bigger than it needs to be. And we feel that shame and guilt, but use it as an opportunity to harness some self-love and, try to make some progress in that, mindset department. That's how I use it as a challenge. Okay, just enjoy this meal for what it is. What an amazing memory. We're sitting here having a great time, and that's it. I'm gonna move on to my fat loss goals tomorrow, and I'm so grateful that I got to have this memory and have this night instead of, turning it into a negative experience. It's positive. That's why you were there. Enjoy it. Now, I even did the math. If you ate 4 meals a day, which was like me pretty much, for 120 days, which was how long my cut was, and let's say roughly 12 meals, I kind of threw a number out there, 12 meals I had that were completely off plan, Easter dinner, bada bing, bada boom, all those things, I still reached a 97% score, right, on my fat loss. If I was hitting my calories and nutrition everywhere else, that's still 97%. So it's no wonder that I still saw, incredible results week to week, even though these things happened. Now there's 2 parts to movement that were my priority, and the first one is steps. Having a step count goal was important for just enhancing my metabolism, stepping more in the day, moving more in the day, meaning I am burning more calories throughout my day in a way that is not impairing my recovery, making me more hungry, making me more sore. That is the magic about steps. So I know some women might say, okay, well, I like running. Can I run instead of walk? That's a workout, right? The magic about steps is that I've now burned more calories in a day, and we don't really need to often recover from walking. We could walk a lot. We could walk with a friend. We can walk and do emails. I walk on my walking pad. Steps. So with steps, we are just enhancing our metabolism, enhancing how many calories we burn in a day. So if you're someone with 3K steps, you can imagine your metabolism is here. We're not really moving through food as energy. We're eating, but we are not moving and expending. And as soon as we rise that, our daily calories burned in a day rises. Faster metabolism. Now my step goal was 10,000 steps per day because I think my average prior was around 7. So I knew 10,000 was more than I was currently doing, but it was attainable. Now, same advice goes for you. If you're somebody who's right now at, say, something low like 3,000, maybe you have a desk job, pretty inactive, can you add 3,000 to begin with, okay? Work your way up. Don't just jump up, to 10,000 steps per day if that's completely unattainable for you at the moment. And then you'll slowly find ways to bring steps into your life. My walking pad really helps me if it's raining, if I'm just too busy. I know that I have that at my standing desk. Now, 10K was my minimum, but any chance I got to walk, I would. If I had the time, or if I could do something while walking, if I could, do a FaceTime, I would take it on my walk. Anything I would do to get extra steps in, I would do it. So there were some days where I got much, much higher than 10K, many, many days. And I know that that totally positively impacted my fat loss by just bringing my calorie expenditure higher without making me tired, making me hungry, impairing my recovery from step 2 of my movement, which was strength training. Now, remember, we went over this in the beginning. For a, strong, healthy, fast metabolism, to give it its best chance, we need to prioritize eating protein so that we can build/maintain muscle. And so here's where that comes into your training, strength training. I was doing strength training 3 to 4 days per week. Strength training, lifting weights, is what keeps and enhances your shape. You want the, the definition in your abs. You want the, the lean toned arms, the lean toned legs. That, it comes from muscle underneath the fat. We drop the fat, we have the muscle there. If you don't, you're gonna end up with what is called that skinny fat look. You're gonna put on a bikini at the end of your fat loss phase. The scale says down, but you've put your bikini on, and you honestly still think that you look fat. You look fat, you look soft, you turn around, everything's jiggling. That's not what we want. Number one, aesthetically, let's just be real, we don't want that. But number 2 is that you're not doing anything to help, your body over time. Muscle is so important for a variety of reasons beyond fat loss. And so not prioritizing the at least maintenance of muscle is going to hurt you in the end in one way or another. So we're all about health and wealth here, baby. So I just gotta really hit that nail on the head. Now, an example week, every single day I was walking the 10K steps, that was the baseline. So I had my walks in there. Now, an example week of training looks something like this: full body, glutes and legs on Tuesday, rest, just do lots of walking on Wednesday, another full body, glutes and legs. So 2 days a week, full body strength training, including upper and lower. And then 2 days a week, I was just focusing on the legs and the glutees. Now, once a week, I like to incorporate something high intensity. Number 1 is just because I freaking love it. Honestly, I thrive in those workouts. I would actually do them every day, but I know that that's not gonna be helpful for me. I really enjoy high intensity training. Now, that would either be in the form of sprints, treadmill sprints, or boxing, my favorite sport. And that would just be somewhere like here, I'll just put a boxing thing. Now, obviously, this is going to help in a bit more calorie burn, but it does make you more hungry, and it is a workout and it requires recovery from it. So it's not like it's my tool for fat loss. However, I think for health, well-being, and enhancing your fitness and just feeling like an absolute freaking badass gorilla, I think you should incorporate 1 day a week of something that brings your heart rate up high, okay? Whether you're trying to lose fat or not, little tip there, I think you should. Find whatever works for you. You can do high intensity interval training on any machine at the gym, really, a ski erg. You don't have to run. It can be lower impact, but that was what my training week looked like, okay? I had my high intensity. Yes, that was great for metabolism. I had my strength training to make sure, and I was pushing heavy. I wanna include that. Every single time I was lifting, right, those 4 days a week, it wasn't like fluffy, like I was like, I am losing fat, I'm in a deficit. The priority has to be to push my muscles until failure. I need to be begging my muscles to stay in a calorie deficit, okay? Otherwise, they will wither away. If I don't use it, I'll definitely lose it. I am eating the protein there to make sure that I'm, promoting my muscle. However, the training is so important, so I wanna make that clear. When I'm doing my weight training, I'm pushing hard. I'm going as heavy as I can, whatever the heaviest dumbbell that I can perform safely, going to the amount of reps that I can do, because I know that I don't have, the excess calories there to maintain my body weight. I'm in a deficit. very important. If you're wanting to maintain or, build some nice shape, lean lines, all that jazz, you're going to need to make those workouts count. You can actually do the exact program that I did for training. I was filming for my app. It was 30-minute workouts. This is not a long time, but pushing all the way, pushing until close to failure, making sure that my muscles are properly engaged so that I can be dropping body fat and getting that beautiful little boom, little sculpt action underneath. You know what I'm saying? Okay, moving on. Link in the description for that, okay? By the way, that was my spring lean challenge. That's what I did. Okay, how to track progress throughout your phase. Top 3 ways: photos, front, side, and back. Measurements using a soft measuring tape. You can do, this is all done in my app, but you can do, you can choose arms, waist, hips, thighs, okay? Then we have the scale. I'm gonna do slash mirror for photos here. Now, I'm gonna be honest, where I spent most of my energy caring about was right here. Okay, looking in the mirror, I would just be able to tell day by day, week to week, looking in the mirror, yep, cool, I wasn't able to see that before. I would just know that I'm on track by seeing the changes happen in front of me in the mirror. I also knew that I didn't have a ton of fat to lose. I wasn't expecting to lose 20 pounds on the scale. There'd be a lot of body recomposition and leaning out. It was not tons of body fat to lose. So week to week, there wasn't much difference on the scale, and that's why I relied on what I saw. I think measurements are an amazing way to track. I did this as well. Now we can actually see if we are losing body fat, because many women only do the scale and then, oh, the scale didn't go down. I've had so many women in my community, oh, I only lost 3 pounds on the scale, but I've lost like, 7 inches across my whole body. That is body recomposition. Okay, it's just such a perfect example that you cannot rely on just the scale. The problem with that is that now you've seen that number on the scale, you think it's not working. And really it is, and you don't even know. That's what makes me sad. Now, I do think there is a time and place for the scale, as long as you're not somebody who gets, emotionally charged by the scale, which I no longer do. Throughout my, between my before and after photos, there's about 6 pound difference, right? That's not that much, but when you're lean, that's enough to make, a really big visible change. I think the scale becomes more important for somebody losing more than, 20 pounds of body fat, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus pounds of body fat. You should be expecting to see that number go down, okay? That's where the scale becomes in handy. However, we need to understand fat loss is not linear. So as long as you have it there as a tool for accountability and you're not attached to that number, you know that it'll go up and down throughout your fat loss phase, then I think it has a place or some value, okay? If it's too much stress for you and you find that you have kind of emotions around certain numbers, or you allow it to dictate how you feel throughout the day, then focus on other metrics, get your measuring tape out, and take front, back, and side photos every single week. Now, here's where I really, really want to go into detail, so we're going to do a whole point on it. Fat loss is not linear, and understanding this will help you get better results. Let me just tell you exactly how I experienced it throughout my fat loss phase. So say we started at 200 pounds. Our goal is 150. Here's each week. What we like to see, right? What we hope to see is just kind of like, okay, every week following my deficit, boom, here's 12 weeks and I've reached, whatever, you get the point. I've reached my goal. What actually happens, okay? Down, the same. Oh shit, up. Oh, down. There we go. Hold up, not moving. Still not moving. Up half a pound. Down, up, down, same. Okay, now this can fuck with your head. This is where right now, me and you are gonna have this little chat right now, okay? Because you are going to realize this, let it sink in, you're gonna accept it, and then when it happens to you throughout your phase, you're not gonna freak out. Well, Sally and Susan over there are like, oh, it just didn't work for me, I just wasn't losing weight, and then boom, you continue to crush. Okay, so this is exactly what happened to me. As soon as I got into a deficit, because it would have been, a shock to the system. I was eating like a bit of a barbarian in January. A lot of celebrations. Anyway, initially, I was like, boom. I probably dropped a couple pounds right away from me, right? Somebody who's already lean, I was like, wow, oh my God, I'm seeing results. I already saw definition like within the first 2 weeks. I was really excited about my changes, okay? I'm talking about the meat of my deficit these weeks here, very slow changes, okay? I'd see it one morning and then I'd go a whole week, barely, maybe the next week a little bit, barely, okay? Now, why? Why is this happening, okay? Hormones fluctuating throughout the month. There's something called a whoosh effect, which maybe you've heard of already online. Let me just explain these, okay? So hormones, right, fluctuating month to month, right? We have our cycle, by the end of our mid-cycle, end cycle, we have hormones dropping and rising, and these are going to retain water and then release water. Now, we could be following the plan to an exact T, but at the end of the month, we retain, we're 2 pounds higher than we were 2 weeks ago. And now we're like, this diet sucks, that doesn't work. This plan doesn't work. But then you get to maybe the first week of your cycle, you have your period, and by day 5, you're like, oh my God, it's like I've lost 5 pounds. Okay, this happened to me multiple times, and so it was a good reminder for me to actually be in the process again. But that's kind of like this whoosh effect, right? We're holding on to the fat, water, right? You're still losing fat. Just because you're not losing scale weight doesn't mean you're not losing fat, right? You're retaining water and fluids. So it would kind of happen in these stages. So number 1 is realizing that our hormones, cortisol, our female hormones rising and falling throughout the month, these are going to, be changing the scale weight. It doesn't mean that you're not losing fat, right? So that's why you have to be able to look at that number on the scale and not get too charged. Number 2 is this whoosh effect. Without getting too sciencey, because that ain't me, when we're in a calorie deficit, our fat cells shrink as we start to break them down and use them for energy. That's kind of when you feel that little bit of hunger in a deficit. You're just kind of feeling lighter. It's not like you're stuffed all the time. That's because you're burnt. That's the feeling of burning fat and using it for energy. As your fat cells shrink, your body can temporarily fill the fat cell with water. So while they're shrinking, there's still fluid in there. And so this happened to me, like I can remember exactly one morning. It's honestly like my whole calorie deficit happened in like, a single morning. Like I had this whole meat section where I was like, I'm not sure if I've plateaued. I'm not going to lower my calories. I'm going to wait. Wait, be patient. And I swear one morning, which is funny because it was actually after a off-plan meal. I think it was after, let's say it was Easter dinner, right? Where I ate far beyond the calories, Italian, all right? Now, woke up, boom, your girl was absolutely shredded. Now, let me explain. When your body is able to release that fluid, often happens after a time of low stress. So that night, I had an amazing time with my family. I ate good food. I was relaxed, probably had a good sleep that night. And that was my body's signal. Boom, it was ready to release that. Now, it doesn't happen to everybody like that, but that was what I experienced. And I had a few whoosh effects throughout my deficit. But when I woke up on mornings like that, it made me want to shout to you ladies and shout from the rooftops, keep going, right? I was so consistent the whole time, right? Like, minus those few meals, every day, everything I ate, consistent, keeping myself accountable. And not till, close to the end was I like, oh my gosh, I'm getting deeper into this fat loss phase and I'm really seeing the results from my efforts. So my advice to you here, I want you to understand is that is likely going to happen to you, right? And not to make changes or adjustments, just follow the plan. Follow the plan. You have your plan. Don't make changes abruptly like that. Like I didn't make changes to my calories for 2 weeks. In fact, my whole deficit was very small incremental changes to my calories that was done within my app. When you input your new weight, it does a small change just to make sure you're maintaining a deficit, but very small, right? Very minimal changes happening here. And a lot of this is just psychological, mentally telling myself, just stick to it. Even though you wake up and you're like, nothing, absolutely nothing. I woke up a few times, higher weight. But I know it's going above being that kind of other person in the room and going, follow the plan. Just follow the plan. You're in a deficit. Keep going. and you are going to see the results. So I want you to understand that because it feels so great. It feels so great to be like, yes, I trusted myself. I trusted the plan. And now I get to see the benefits, see the rewards that I've been working hard for. The women who are going to see better results than others are more patient, period. Now, stop chasing results in 2 weeks. Allow a longer time frame for your goals, and you're going to see results that everybody else sees. It's not just like that little bit of like less bloating fat loss, like, you know, seeing lines along your legs and shoulders that you did not have 3 months ago type of fat loss. It's longer time frame, okay? Be patient. This is where real significant change can happen. Above that 2-week mark that, you know, everyone is trying to pull you into on social media because it's exciting, results happening really quick, and know that you're gonna see results along the way. Just like I said, I had that initial motivation because as soon as I got into it, I was like, whoa, here we go. My body's feeling that change. But for the significant change, transformational change, 12 weeks. If you've got more fat to lose, you're gonna come up, you're gonna take a break at maintenance before you go into another phase. The women that I work with who have seen the most change, like complete transformations, they were all in for the journey. They weren't looking for hacks. They were there trying to learn, figure out ways to implement it into their everyday lifestyle. None of them were perfect. None of them were perfect, and I've spoken to them. And they saw transformations that are, you know, jaw-dropping. Tons of body fat gone. Don't let a scale fluctuation derail you. Don't let one off-plan meal turn into a downward spiral. Stay committed when your mind is trying to play tricks on you, and just know that Coach Mads is in the background over there clapping for you. You've got everything that it takes. Now go crush your fat loss phase.